The vast emptiness of space was silent, but silence did not mean safety. The Zervian High Council watched in horror as a lone warship entered their restricted space, its metallic frame reflecting the dim light of a dying star. The warship was not just any ship, it was human. The words flashed in urgent red across their control panels. WARNINGAH UMANWUARVES ELNTER SATED ALACUACE CERC. Panic spread through the council like wildfire. The Zervians had heard stories of humans, of their strange, unpredictable nature, of their terrifying ability to adapt and conquer. To them, humans were monsters in disguise, creatures who had survived wars against stronger species through sheer determination and cunning. And now, one of their warships had entered a region where no human had ever dared to go. Commander Vekrol, a hardened warrior of the Zervian fleet, clenched his fists as he stared at the holographic display. The ship was alone, no escort, no visible signs of aggression. But Vekrol knew better. Humans did not need an escort to be dangerous. "Open a transmission," he barked, his voice sharp with urgency. A deep hum filled the war room as a connection was established. "Unidentified human vessel. This is Commander Vekrol of the Zervian Empire. You are in violation of restricted space. Turn back immediately, or we will be forced to engage." For a long moment, there was no response. The human ship remained eerily still, floating like a predator waiting for its prey to make the first mistake. Then, a voice crackled through the speakers. "This is Captain Elias Rourke of the Terran Defense Fleet," the human replied, his voice calm, steady, almost amused. "We are not here for war. We are here to talk." The words sent a ripple of unease through the council chamber. Talk? No species entered enemy territory just to talk. It had to be a trick. Vekrol's mandibles clicked in frustration. "You expect us to believe that?" he hissed. "Humans do not come unarmed unless they intend to strike from the shadows." Captain Rourke chuckled softly. "We don't need shadows, Commander. If we wanted to attack, you wouldn't be having this conversation right now." The Zervian officers exchanged uneasy glances. The confidence in Rourke's voice was unsettling. It wasn't arrogance, it was certainty. As if he knew something they didn't. Vekrol straightened, his mind racing through possible scenarios. "Then explain why you are here, Captain. This space is forbidden to outsiders." There was a pause before Rourke answered. "We detected an anomaly. Something unnatural. A disturbance in space-time. Our scientists believe it could be dangerous, not just for us, but for your people too." The Zervian Council erupted into whispers. A disturbance? Their scanners had detected nothing unusual. Was this another human trick? Vekrol narrowed his eyes. "If that were true, we would have detected it first." "Would you?" Rourke's voice was casual, almost taunting. "Or is your technology still catching up?" The insult was subtle, but it struck deep. Zervians prided themselves on their advancements, yet humans had a way of developing things that defied logic. Vekrol exhaled slowly, his instincts screaming at him to end this conversation and open fire. But something held him back. If Rourke was lying, what was his goal? And if he was telling the truth, what danger had they overlooked? "Very well, Captain," Vekrol finally said. "Transmit your findings. If you are deceiving us, it will be the last lie you ever tell." Another pause. "I'm afraid I can't do that," Rourke replied. "The information is classified, but I can show you." The Zervian chamber fell into stunned silence. Show them? No species willingly handed over information to another, especially not one as paranoid as humanity. This was either a dangerous bluff or a sign of something much worse. Vekrol knew he had only seconds to decide. If he refused, the humans might leave, taking their knowledge with them. If he agreed, he risked walking into a human trap. Gritting his teeth, he made his choice. "Send us your coordinates. We will meet you at a neutral location." Rourke's voice carried a hint of amusement. "Brave choice, Commander. I hope you don't regret it." The transmission cut off, leaving an uneasy silence in its wake. The human warship remained motionless, waiting. Veckrel turned to his officers. "Prepare a fleet," he ordered. "If the humans try anything, we will crush them before they can react." As the Zervian ships moved into position, a cold realization settled over Veckrel. This was not just an encounter. This was the beginning of something far bigger. And for the first time in his long career, he was not sure if his people were ready for what was coming. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly, a black ocean speckled with distant stars. It was silent, cold, and indifferent until something disturbed its stillness. A lone warship drifted through the void, cutting through the darkness like a predator in unfamiliar territory. The ship was massive, built for war, its hull reinforced with layers of armor that had seen countless battles. It bore the insignia of the Terran Defense Fleet, a name that sent fear into the hearts of many across the galaxy. Yet, despite its power, it moved without aggression, as if it were observing, waiting. But waiting for what? No escort ships surrounded it. No fleet backed its presence. It was alone in the most forbidden sector of the Zervian Empire's space, a place where no human vessel had ever dared to venture before. Inside the warship, Captain Elias Rourke sat in his command chair, his sharp eyes scanning the endless dark beyond the reinforced windows. His crew was silent, their hands hovering over controls, their breaths held as if the weight of the void itself pressed against them. They all knew where they were. Restricted space. Enemy territory. A place where even the bravest would hesitate. But Rourke had made his choice, and his crew trusted him enough to follow. The Zervians were a powerful empire, known for their ruthlessness, their strict laws, and their absolute intolerance of trespassers. Entering their space without permission was nothing short of suicide. Yet here they were, drifting deeper into the unknown, daring fate to challenge them. "Captain, we've crossed the boundary." Lieutenant Carter's voice broke the tense silence. A soft beep echoed through the control room as the sensors confirmed what they already knew. They were no longer just wandering near enemy space. They were inside it. Rourke leaned forward, his fingers tapping against the metal armrest of his chair. His expression remained unreadable, but inside, he was calculating every possible reaction. The Zervians wouldn't ignore this. They would see. They would come. And when they did, the real game would begin. The ship's AIA, calm but synthetic voice, spoke up. "Captain, no immediate hostiles detected. Long-range sensors indicate Zervian patrols approximately 3,000 kilometers away. Estimated time before interception, 15 minutes. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. 15 minutes before the enemy knew they were here. It was both too much time and not enough. Rourke exhaled slowly, his mind working through possibilities. Maintain course. No sudden movements. "Let them see us first," he ordered. His officers hesitated but obeyed. They trusted him, even if they didn't fully understand why he was risking everything. Outside, the warship remained eerily still, a ghost in the void. The Zervian patrol ships had not yet detected them, but that would change soon. And when it did, the response would be swift. The Zervians feared humans not because of their numbers, not because of their weapons, but because of their unpredictability. Where other species followed rules of war, humans adapted. Where others relied on technology, humans relied on instinct. And when others surrendered, humans fought until the stars themselves burned. A soft alarm rang, pulling Rourke's focus back to the monitors. "Incoming transmission," Carter reported, her voice tense. "It's an automated warning signal. They're telling us to turn back immediately." Rourke smirked. So, they had finally noticed. He leaned back, arms crossed, watching as the message repeated itself on the screen. "Unidentified human vessel. You are violating Zervian Imperial space. You have 60 seconds to retreat. Failure to comply will be seen as an act of aggression." The words were spoken in a cold, mechanical tone, likely pre-recorded, but the threat behind them was very real. Rourke didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, he let the seconds tick away, watching, waiting, letting the enemy feel his silence. Silence was power. It made them wonder. It made them nervous. Beside him, Carter shifted uncomfortably. "Captain, if we don't respond, they might let them," Rourke interrupted calmly, his gaze locked on the screen. "They expect fear. They expect hesitation. We give them neither." The Zervians were watching, analyzing, trying to predict what the humans would do next. But that was the problem. Humans were never predictable. Outside, the patrol ships were closing in, their engines glowing faintly against the blackness. Rourke could almost picture the Zervian commanders scrambling to make a decision. Attack? Demand surrender? Call for reinforcements? None of their choices were good. If they attacked, they risked engaging a human warship without knowing its full capabilities. If they demanded surrender, they would be giving the humans time to respond, to plan, to manipulate the situation. And if they called for reinforcements, they admitted fear. Rourke knew they would hesitate. And hesitation was deadly in war. "Captain," the AI spoke again, "Zervian forces are adjusting formation. They are attempting to surround us." Rourke chuckled, shaking his head. Predictable. He finally pressed a button on the control panel, activating the ship's external communication. His voice, smooth and unwavering, echoed through the speakers. "This is Captain Elias Rourke of the Terran Defense Fleet. We are not here for war. We are here to talk." The words were simple, but their weight was immeasurable. The crew held their breath. The Zervians would not expect this. A lone human warship entering enemy space just to talk? Impossible. Suspicious. Dangerous. No reply. Just silence. Then a deep voice, filled with controlled anger, crackled through the speakers. "Human vessel, state your purpose or prepare to be fired upon." Rourke smiled. Finally, a real response. "If you were going to fire, you would have done it already," he said smoothly. "So let's not waste time pretending. You want to know why I'm here? Then let's talk. Face to face." The tension in the room was suffocating. The Zervians were now the ones hesitating, forced into an unfamiliar position. Humans were supposed to be reckless, aggressive, impossible to control. But this? This was something else. Something dangerous. The Zervians didn't know it yet, but they had already lost control of the situation. And Captain Rourke was just getting started. A deep, mechanical alarm echoed through the control chambers of the Zervian Empire's high command, flashing bright red warnings across multiple holographic screens. The words UNIDENT, IFIEDUMANVESSEL, DETECTET pulsed like a heartbeat, growing faster, more urgent with each passing second. In the vast and heavily guarded expanse of Zervian space, where no outsider had ever dared to intrude, a lone Terran warship had appeared, drifting calmly as if it belonged there. Panic rippled through the Zervian officers, their clawed fingers tapping against control panels, their dark eyes narrowing in alarm. This was not supposed to happen. No species, not even the most reckless of pirates, dared to trespass into forbidden territory. Yet here, it was a human warship, standing alone in defiance of every known law. Commander Veckrel stood rigid at the center of the war room, his mandibles clicking together in frustration as he glared at the massive image of the human vessel displayed before him. It was sleek, heavily armored, and carried the unmistakable insignia of the Terran Defense Fleet. Veckrel had studied human warfare for years, analyzing their strategies, their unpredictability, and above all, their refusal to surrender. He had seen battle logs, footage of smaller human ships outmaneuvering larger enemy fleets, of Terran soldiers fighting even when all odds were against them. Humans were dangerous, but they were not foolish. They did not walk blindly into enemy space unless they had a reason. And that reason was what troubled him the most. "Send the warning," he ordered, his voice sharp and commanding. Within moments, a transmission was sent to the human vessel, the message repeating on all frequencies. "Warning, you are in forbidden territory. This space belongs to the Zervian Empire. You have 60 seconds to retreat, or you will be considered an enemy combatant." Silence followed. No response. The human warship remained motionless, as if mocking them, as if daring them to make the first move. Vekral's grip tightened on the edge of the control panel. They were waiting. But for what? His officers looked to him for guidance, their nervous energy filling the room. The Zervian military was feared across the galaxy, yet here they stood, unsure of what to do next. The countdown continued. 50 seconds. 40. 30. Still no reply. The tension was suffocating. Vekral could feel it in his bones, the creeping realization that this was not a mistake. The humans had come here deliberately. And worse, they were not afraid. Commander, one of his officers spoke hesitantly. If they do not respond, should we fire a warning shot? The idea was tempting. A single blast across the human ship's bow would send a clear message. But Vekral hesitated. Humans were unpredictable. A warning shot might be seen as a challenge. And if there was one thing history had proven, it was that humans never back down from a challenge. Before he could answer, the communication console flickered and a new voice filled the war room. Deep, calm, and entirely too confident. This is Captain Elias Rourke of the Terran Defense Fleet. The sound of a human voice, steady and unshaken, sent a shiver through the room. We received your warning, Rourke continued, his tone smooth, deliberate, and we respectfully decline your invitation to leave. The sheer audacity of the words made some of the younger officers gasp. Vekral's mandibles twitched. This human was either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. You are trespassing in sovereign Zervian space, Vekral growled, stepping forward, his claws gripping the edge of the console. Your presence is an act of hostility. Turn back now, or we will open fire. But Rourke did not flinch. He did not plead or threaten. Instead, he simply sighed, as if speaking to an impatient child. Commander Vekral, let's not waste time pretending. If you were going to fire, you would have done it already. The words struck deep, and for a brief moment, the war room fell silent. Vekral's eyes narrowed. He was right. By allowing this conversation to happen, the Zervians had already shown restraint. And Rourke knew it. Vekral exhaled slowly, forcing himself to remain calm. Then explain yourself, human. Why are you here? A brief pause. Then, Rourke replied, we detected an anomaly in this region of space. Something unnatural. Something your sensors might have missed. Murmurs spread among the Zervian officers. An anomaly? Their scanners had picked up nothing unusual. Was this a trick? A distraction? Vekral's mind raced through possibilities, searching for the human's true motive. You expect us to believe that? He asked, his voice laced with suspicion. I expect you to listen, Rourke countered smoothly. We're not here for war. We're here for answers. And if what we found is real, then this isn't just our problem. It's yours too. Vekral clenched his fists. Every instinct told him not to trust the human. Yet something about Rourke's tone made him pause. Humans were known for deception, for manipulation. But they were also known for their strange sense of honor. And Rourke did not sound like a man bluffing. He sounded like a man who knew something Vekral did not. Send us your findings, Vekral demanded. Let us confirm your claims. But Rourke's answer was immediate. I'm afraid that information is classified. But I can show you. Another murmur rippled through the room. The idea of meeting a human ship face to face, of allowing them any level of trust, was unthinkable. Yet Vekral found himself considering it. If the humans were lying, they could be destroyed. But if they were telling the truth, he turned to his officers, scanning their uncertain expressions. This was a risk, a dangerous one. But wars were not won by brute force alone. They were won by knowing when to strike and when to listen. Finally, he turned back to the human captain. Very well, Captain Rourke. We will meet. But know this: one false move, one deception, and your ship will not leave this space intact. Rourke chuckled softly. Fair enough, Commander. I wouldn't expect anything less. The transmission ended, leaving behind a room full of Zervians who had just witnessed something unprecedented. For the first time in history, a human warship had entered forbidden space and had not been destroyed. The rules of the galaxy had just changed. and none of them knew what would come next. But one thing was certain, the war had not begun yet. But it was closer than ever. The grand chamber of the Zervian High Council was in chaos. Rows of towering insectoid figures in regal robes clicked their mandibles in agitation, their deep, resonant voices overlapping in a storm of confusion and fear. The massive hall, once a place of order and calculated discussions, now trembled under the weight of uncertainty. A single message, broadcast from their most heavily restricted sector, had shattered the illusion of control that the Zervian Empire prided itself on. A Terran warship had entered forbidden space. And worse, it had not been destroyed. Grand Chancellor Vorthak sat at the center of the circular council table, his clawed fingers gripping the stone surface hard enough to crack it. His eyes, dark and calculating, swept across the panicked council members. Zervian space had been impenetrable for centuries. No empire, no fleet, no rogue faction had ever dared to cross into it. And now, a lone human warship had simply walked in, defying every law, every warning, as if the Empire's power meant nothing. Vorthok's mandibles twitched with anger. Silence. His voice thundered through the hall, cutting through the chaotic debates. The chamber fell into a tense hush, but the fear in the room remained thick, suffocating. One of the senior counselors, a thin, elder Zervian with shimmering silver scales, leaned forward. His voice was strained, barely masking the anxiety beneath it. How did they get this far? Our border patrols should have intercepted them long before they entered restricted space. Another counselor, his wings twitching with nervous energy, added, and why has our fleet not eliminated them yet? This is an act of war. A direct violation of our sovereignty. Murmurs of agreement echoed through the chamber. The idea that a human ship had not only crossed their borders but was still alive was an insult, an open challenge to Zervian supremacy. A deep, holographic display flickered to life in the center of the chamber, showing the lone Terran warship, hovering like a silent predator in the Zervian-controlled sector. It was not broadcasting distress signals, not attempting to flee, not showing any signs of fear. It was simply waiting. Watching. Vorthak narrowed his eyes. What are you planning, human? We received their transmission. A high-ranking military official spoke, his voice cold and unreadable. Their captain, Elias Rourke, claims they are here to talk. The word felt almost absurd in the Grand Council Hall. Talk? Humans did not talk. They conquered. They fought. They adapted. And they never, ever backed down. Another counselor let out a low growl. This is a deception. A trick to test our defenses. The humans are masters of psychological warfare. They know fear when they see it, and if we hesitate, they will take it as weakness. The room trembled again with murmurs, the counselors torn between their anger and their uncertainty. The Zervian Empire had always ruled through sheer power. No enemy had ever forced them into a position of doubt. Until now. Vorthak tapped his claw against the stone table, his mind racing through the possibilities. The humans were unpredictable. That was what made them the most dangerous species in the known galaxy. Their technology was not the most advanced. Their fleets were not the largest. But their will to survive, their refusal to follow the expected rules of war, made them impossible to control. Every empire that had underestimated humanity had learned this the hard way. And now, they had sent a single warship into the very heart of forbidden space not to attack, but to see how the Zervians would react. A sudden realization gripped Vorthak. They were not just testing the Empire's defenses. They were testing the Empire itself. Were the Zervians as powerful as they claimed to be? Were they willing to risk open war over a single ship? The thought made his claws tighten against the stone. The humans knew something they were not saying. And if Rourke's transmission was to be believed, whatever had brought them here was not just a Terran problem, it was a Zervian problem too. Another counselor, younger and more cautious, hesitated before speaking. Grand Chancellor. What if they truly did detect something? Something we missed? The words caused an uncomfortable shift in the room. Zervian technology was the most advanced in the sector. For a human ship to claim it had detected something the Empire had overlooked was almost insulting. But the possibility, no matter how small, was impossible to ignore. Vorthak exhaled sharply. The worst mistake a ruler could make was to underestimate an enemy. Humans were not reckless, not without reason. If they were here, then there was something bigger happening, something unseen, and he could not allow the Empire to be caught off guard. His decision came swiftly, his voice steady and absolute. We will not destroy the human vessel. Not yet. The room erupted into shock and protest, counselors rising to their feet in outrage. Chancellor, this is madness. One of them bellowed. They are violating our space. We must respond with force. Vorthak raised a hand, silencing them. If they wanted war, they would have brought a fleet, not a single ship. If they wanted to provoke us, they would have fired first. But they did not. Instead, they sent a message. His dark eyes scanned the council, his next words carrying a weight that crushed any further argument. And we will answer it. The silence that followed was deafening. No one had expected this response. No one had imagined that a human warship could force the mighty Zervian Empire to think before acting. Yet here they were, sitting in uncertainty, knowing that one wrong move could set the galaxy on fire. Vorthak turned to his military commander. Prepare a diplomatic fleet. We will meet this Captain Rourke face to face. If this is a deception, we will strike. But if he speaks the truth, then we must know what he knows. The order was given, and the decision was made. The council had no choice but to accept it. But even as they moved to execute their chancellor's will, an unease settled over them. Because for the first time in their history, they were not the ones in control. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the lone Terran warship waited, watching, knowing it had already changed the rules of the game. The question echoed through the Zervian High Council's chamber, heavy with suspicion and unease. No one had an answer, and that made it worse. For centuries, the Zervian Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy without challenge, without question. Their borders were absolute, their power undeniable. No species had dared to cross into their forbidden territories. Yet now, against all logic, a single Terran warship had arrived alone, unafraid, and unwilling to leave. Grand Chancellor Vorthak leaned forward in his seat, his sharp eyes fixed on the holographic display. The Terran vessel hovered in restricted space like a predator that had just stepped into another hunter's territory, calm and calculating. It was not broadcasting distress signals. It was not evading detection. It was simply there. And that made it more terrifying than an entire invasion fleet. The counselors around him muttered in hushed, uneasy tones. Some demanded an immediate strike, insisting that allowing the ship to remain was an insult to Zervian sovereignty. Others, the more cautious ones, whispered of the human reputation. The stories of battles where the odds were against them, yet they had emerged victorious. The tales of human adaptability, their relentless nature, their refusal to surrender. Humans do not wander without purpose, one of the senior counselors finally said. His mandibles clicked nervously. They are creatures of war. If they have come here, it is not by accident. They must know something. Or they must want something. A silence settled over the chamber, thick and suffocating. The idea that the Zervian Empire was being tested was almost unthinkable. They had ruled undisputed for generations. The Zervians had always been the ones watching, the ones setting the rules, not the ones being observed. And yet, here was this Terran vessel, sitting at the edge of their seat of power, waiting for a reaction. Vorthak's claws tapped against the stone table as he considered the possibilities. Why would humans come here? What could possibly be in this sector that would interest them? The Zervians had guarded this space fiercely, not because of what was inside, but because of what lay beyond it. A region of dead systems, ancient ruins, remnants of civilizations long erased from existence. There was nothing of value there, nothing worth drawing the attention of humanity. Unless a disturbing thought took root in his mind. What if the humans had found something? Something even the Zervian Empire had overlooked? He turned to his military strategist. Have our sensors detected anything unusual in the restricted sectors? The officer hesitated, then shook his head. No, Chancellor. Our scans show nothing but dead worlds. The same as always. Vorthak narrowed his eyes. That was the problem. The same as always. If there was one thing he had learned about humans, it was that they did not accept things at face value. They questioned, they searched, they found cracks in what others believed to be solid walls. Another counselor spoke, her voice uncertain. If they have come looking for something, then they already know more than we do. The statement sent a ripple of tension through the room. The thought of humans having knowledge that the Zervians did not was deeply unsettling. A sudden chime interrupted the discussion. The holographic display flickered, and a new message appeared on the screen. An open transmission. From the human ship. The chamber tensed. This was it. The first words exchanged between the mighty Zervian Empire and the lone Terran vessel that had dared to cross into their space. The transmission was audio only, a deep, steady voice carrying through the Grand Hall. This is Captain Elias Rourke of the Terran warship Indomitable. I know you're watching us. I know you're wondering why we're here. So let's not waste time. There was a pause, heavy with unspoken meaning. Then, his next words sent a chill through the council. We found something. And if we found it, that means you missed it. A deadly silence followed. No one moved. No one spoke. Vorthak felt his grip tighten on the armrest of his throne. What had the humans found? What could possibly exist in this empty,